when you have a graph and figure question with a complicated figure, complicated information in the text, one thing to remind yourself is to keep the focus of the text in mind. Keep the hypothesis or the assertion or the claim, whatever it is in this case that we're trying to support. That's what you want to focus on, because that will help you cut through information that's otherwise going to be irrelevant. So if we focus here on the assertion, so here's that word assertion, which we're going to support with data from the table. They assert that countries in each region reported effects on provisioning services, and that provisioning services represent the majority of the reported services. So we have two aspects to our assertion that we need to support, and whatever else the choices get into that is not related to these particular assertions is probably not going to be relevant to this answer, right? So that's going to potentially help us ignore things in the choices that are just not relevant to what we're trying to support. So looking at A, provisioning services represent 73% of the services reported for the West region and 33% of those for the Central region. First test on these choices is it even consistent with the figure? We see West, it's 73%. Central is 33%. So, okay, that looks fine. But they represent 75% of the services reported overall. Again, true, but we need to go back to the assertion. What are we trying to support here? We're trying to support the idea that countries in each region reported effects on provisioning services. Each region. A just mentions the West and the Central. Now, while those are two of the regions in the table, it's not really supporting the idea that these effects are on provisioning services in each region, just in two of them. The second part of they represent 75% of the services reported overall. I think that is pretty good for the green part, but this yellow part is not quite supported by A. So if you're not sure, put a little squiggly, but I'm pretty confident that A is not going to be right. B, none of the percentages shown for provisioning services are lower than 33%. That is true. And notice, contrast this with choice A. This is talking about all of the percentages. It's saying, look, in all these regions, the percent does not go below 33, which means each region is reporting effects on provisioning services. So this is actually pretty good support for the first part of our assertion. And the overall percentage shown for provisioning services is 75%. It's pretty similar to what we saw in choice A. This is supporting the green part. So good. Both of these are doing what we want to do, supporting what we want to support based on data that's accurate from the table. I'm liking choice B. Let's check the rest. Provisioning services are shown for each region. So this is a little vague. Provisioning services are shown for each region. I mean, I guess it's trying to say that there's a certain percent for each versus 0% for some of them. We'll give it a pass, but I'm not super happy about that. If you contrast that with choice B is much more specific and concrete. But the second part of this choice is really bad. Well, no cultural services are shown for some regions. True, but irrelevant, right? This is an example of we're talking about cultural services. When we go back to the assertion never discusses cultural services. It's all about provisioning services. So regardless of the truth of that statement, it's not relevant to the claim, so it's out. The greatest percentage shown for provisioning services is 88% for the North region, true, and the least is 33% for the Central. So true, and this does give us some sense of the first part. I think this goes pretty well with the yellow, right? The greatest percentage is 88, the lowest is 33, which means there are none that are 0, essentially, so all of these regions are affected. So that's pretty good, but it doesn't get the second part, right? Does it tell us that provisioning services represent the majority of the reported services? Does it focus on this part of the table, which, as we can see in the first column, this is the overall percentage of these services in these regions. So it's 75% is provisioning, which is what's supporting the green part. This does not have the green. So while it does the yellow part pretty well, it does not do anything for the green. And so the best answer then is choice B.